Well, let me try to challenge your understanding of Newton's third law. So here, there's a picture of somebody holding an apple in their hand. And I'll tell you, there's one force that you can't deny, and that is that the earth pulls down on the apple. That's just basically another way of saying that the apple weighs something, right? So if you were to draw some vector diagrams and illustrate a vector for the weight of the apple, my challenge for you is to try to name what is the third law pair to that force. If all forces do indeed come in pairs, and the force that one object exerts onto a second one is equal to the force that the second one exerts onto the first, and maybe you prefer this notation, the force that A exerts onto B is equal to the force that B exerts onto A. However you like to say it, be careful, keep in mind, these are vectors, and although the forces are equal in magnitude, there's no doubt that they're opposite in direction. I'll say it one more time. What is the third law pair to the force that represents the weight of the apple? Okay, so I've heard some folks answer that it goes something like this. If the vector I just drew represents mg, the weight of the apple, then the third law pair to that is the hand pushes up on the apple. And so there you have it. Two forces, equal and opposite, the force of the hand on the apple. Well, that's entirely incorrect. And number one, you should notice this immediately because both of the forces I'm illustrating are acting on the same object, that object being the apple. But Newton's third law says that the pairs never act. The pair of forces never act on the same object. They always act on two separate objects. So now there is the force of the hand on the apple. So I'm erasing it right now just to make clear that it doesn't constitute a third law pair. But there's another name for mg. This is really the force of the earth on the apple. So there must be a third law pair to that that's the force of the apple on the earth. But we don't really care about that, right? I don't know. Somewhere this person is standing on the ground, right? But we're not going to draw a free body diagram for the earth. Who cares, right? Let's just make a couple different free body diagrams. Let's make one for the hand and one for the apple. So here we have that force I labeled earlier, pointing upward. That's the force of the hand on the apple. And just please note that the force of the hand on the apple and mg do happen to be equal and opposite, but they do not constitute a third law pair. Okay, so let's draw a free body diagram for the hand. Just draw a dot off to the side. What are the forces acting on the hand? Well, the hand weighs something, right? So the hand is being pulled down. This is the force of the earth on the hand. Oh, there's another downward push. Here's where Newton's third law comes into play. Force of the hand on the apple. I should draw a force pointing downward just as big as that and label it the force of the apple on the hand. Now what's pointing upward? Somehow there's a force transmitted down is it the radius or the ulna, or both of them? What are the bones in the forearm? Anyway, whatever they are, they transmit a force that helps support and push the hand up. So, and all that force somehow is transmitted by the bicep muscle through the bicep tendon. So there's some upward force. So in the end, the hand is in equilibrium, but the force of the apple on the hand and the force of the hand on the apple are acting on two separate objects. I think the moral of this story is, just because two forces happen to be equal and opposite does not mean that they are guaranteed to be a third law pair. And if you see two forces that are equal and opposite acting on the same singular object, they're guaranteed not to be a third law pair.